Today I fucked up by stinking my office up for a planned Zoom meeting that turned into an in-person one. It's rare today. Actually today, I fucked up. I work in an office and for the past year we have been meeting virtually via Zoom or other virtual meeting medium. Today, I had a nice breakfast of chorizo and eggs, and although I love the taste, my tummy isn't always on board. I had a meeting at 9 and it had a link to meet up via Zoom, so I felt no shame in helping to relieve the excess stress on my stomach by releasing it as I needed to, alone in my office. Needless to say, the smell in my office was rather foul. So foul in fact I realized that I should probably head to the restroom as soon as possible after my meeting. I logged into my meeting and waited patiently, releasing the pressure when the pain was too much. I made sure to mute my mic so when the other participant logged into the meeting, they would be none the wiser of the current state of my office air quality. Not 2 minutes after I logged into the meeting, there was a knock on my door. To my horror, the meeting attendant decided to come and meet in person. I indicated that this was to be an online meeting, but they insisted, as they scooted into my office, on meeting in person as they were on their way out of the office and didn't want to go back the other way. I watched her eyes closely. We have masks on for COVID, and hoped that the awful stench would be eliminated by her mask. This seemed to work. She started speaking and I was at ease, except for the pressure in my stomach which I would just have to put up with at this point. Then she took off her mask to get a drink of water. The whole look of her eyes changed. She could smell what had been going on. She put her mask on quickly and said that she realized she needed to run, and quickly left my office, closing the door as fast as she could. Not sure if I should apologize. Pretty embarrassing. TL/Doctor, I had an upset stomach that requires the release of pressure in my office. Someone decided to attend a scheduled virtual meeting in person and paid the price. Lol, I'm sorry that happened to you, but maybe next time they won't show up in person and unannounced to a scheduled Zoom meeting. I don't think you should apologize either. Agreed, this isn't family. You don't show up unannounced, in person, to an online meeting. You've probably punished that behavior completely. Don't apologize for her fuck up. I think you taught them a valuable lesson. Ah man, it's been so long since I've been to the office. I'll have to relearn where to strategically fart. Hallway where accounting is. Those quiet people will never say anything. Lol, a few years ago, working retail in a fairly small store, I too was plagued with noxious gas. My manager was in the back for what seemed like at least an hour. I'm on the floor by myself, slow day, so I'm just letting them rip. After a while, my regional manager stops by. He steps inside, pauses, and says, "Phew, it smells like raw sewage in here." I totally played it off. Yeah, sometimes it smells like that in here. I think a pipe is leaking out front. I think your leak was out back, but good way to throw them off the scent. You should not apologize. You did nothing wrong. Hopefully she learned a lesson about popping up unexpectedly. Ha ha ha. Today I fucked up by unintentionally giving out a spoiler to my girlfriend's favorite show. Backstory: my girlfriend is absolutely in love with Attack on Titan and it's in its final season right now. I had already read the manga a month ago and was waiting for the show to catch up, while she had read a part of the manga after where the show is currently. Present day, we are discussing about how the anime is such a brilliant piece of work and how the manga doesn't bring out the same emotions in you. I let information slip about a certain character while discussing how it would be an emotional scene in the anime while it wasn't so in the manga. I also made a typo while texting this info, so I could have saved the situation with some quick thinking. But my boneheaded self chose to clarify what I had said earlier. The information I mentioned was in the next chapter of the manga from where she had stopped, and I didn't know if the event I had mentioned had already transpired. I didn't even cross-check on the internet before blurting it out. She's now completely disgusted by my selfless and stupid actions and is currently gulagging me until further notice. I feel so bad that I ruined her favorite show and would possibly be the dumbest, costliest mistake of my life. Too long didn't read, blurted out spoilers about my girlfriend's favorite show unintentionally, kicked the chance I had to rectify the situation in the nuts and currently in the doghouse. Update, made it out of the gulag boys. Gave up 20 IOUs toe. Do you mean selfish, not selfless? Selfless is a good thing. Annoying, but also forgivable. Imagine after she forgave you just blurt out another big spoiler. Imagine having a GF who's into anime. If this is the biggest mistake of your life, you're doing pretty damn well. RIP. Today I fucked up by shredding a dissertation instead of stapling it. This FU was during my second year of university. We had been assigned something the faculty called a long essay, which was basically a shorter form of dissertation. Spent days and weeks researching and lovingly crafting this essay, until the day before submission, where I stayed up most of the night adding the finishing touches. Back in those days, 2010, online submission wasn't allowed. You had to go to the faculty and hand it a physical version. There were also strict rules about how it had to look, how it should be compiled, etc. So I printed mine off the morning of submission, single-sided, as ordered, and went to add the one staple in the top left corner that was permitted. Oh, my stapler wasn't strong enough to punch through all the pages. No worries, I thought. I still have a bit of time before the deadline. I will just go down to the faculty and ask them what to do, since I was sure this wasn't the first time this must have happened to someone. So I toddled down there but found a long queue of other students waiting, essays in hand, to submit them. Sighing, I joined the back of the queue, which slowly made its way forward until, nervously glancing at my watch, I made it into the submission office. "Excuse me," I asked politely. "Would you happen to have a stapler available that I could use for this?" I smiled an embarrassed smile. The lady behind the desk looked at me in a slightly similar way to the look you would give gum you had just found on the bottom of your shoe. She grunted, rose from her chair and left the office. Puzzled, I followed. She led me into a small room with a number of machines around the walls. There, she indicated with a sweep of the hand that seemed to indicate one machine in the corner. She left. I went over to the machine. Remember, my exact thought at the time was, this looks remarkably like a shredder, but my sleep-deprived brain was in a trusting mood, and there was a symbol of a staple on it, albeit a symbol with a big red X over it, although I wasn't about to let that stop me. So, assuming this was some kind of fancy electronic stapler, I gently slid my essay top first into the slot on top of the machine. Obviously, the shredder, for that is what it was, neatly disintegrated my cherished work in 2 seconds. I stood there for what must have been a minute or so, completely dumbfounded as to what had just happened, my brain's functions having slowed to treacle pace. Eventually though, I slowly turned and left the room. The queue was still outside in the corridor, and a friend of mine was about halfway along, ready to hand her essay in. She said, "What's the matter?" Exclamation mark, very concerned because apparently my face had gone white as a sheet. "I've just shredded my essay," I said, matter-of-factly. Then the reality struck me that I had just fed my magnum opus into a shredder, and I said again, "I've shredded my essay." In blind panic as I ran down the corridor. Luckily, I managed to sprint faster than Usain Bolt back to my room, reprint the essay, run it back, find a more kindly person to show me the actual stapler, and submit it with about 5 minutes to spare. After a while, I found the whole thing hilariously funny and would tell the story often. Unfortunately, I would find that often the story had preceded me throughout the university, and would often hear delighted cries of "Oh, you're that guy," from people I started telling the tale to. Too long didn't read, I mistook a shredder for an electronic stapler and destroyed an important university essay minutes before the submission deadline. Ouch. Wow, I'm impressed that you were able to get it printed and turned in before it was due. I went to college before there were laptops and printers available. I once borrowed my roommate's sorta kinda typewriter that had memory in it and should have been able to print out my paper when it was complete. It had a tiny 2-line screen on it. It was a shitty machine. I couldn't get it to print. My roommate couldn't get it to print. No one could get it to print. So my paper was trapped in the memory of this POS. And when it was due and I was out of time, I lugged that piece of shit across campus and showed my professor that I had completed the paper and that it was trapped in that POS electronic device. And I just needed a little bit of time to retype it and print it out in the computer lab. Saw that I wasn't lying about what happened and gave me more time. I really wanted to throw that thing off the roof of my dorm building, but I refrained. I never tried to use it again and just used the computer lab from then on out. Just for reference, the computer lab was to a mainframe, if you can believe that, man. This was back in the Stone Age of computing. Technology will never cease to try to frustrate us, especially when we're in a hurry. Machines can sense fear. Thank God this isn't the fuck up I thought it was going to be.